Hey baes, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new, my name is Catherine Alexandra. On today's video, I'm going to be offering you guys some advice on how to get thick locks and to ensure that your locks remain on the thicker side and do not thin over time. I have been locked for a year and about 6 months now, and my locks are definitely thriving, and I've managed to maintain the thickness of them. And there's a lot of different things that I have implemented in my lock maintenance routine to help contribute towards that. So I definitely want to share that with you all. And again, hopefully this advice is helpful to anyone out there that is in their starter lock phase and you just need some guidance. If you take these tips and implement it early on, then I am almost certain that your locks will also thrive as well. Let's go ahead and jump into the very first tip, and that is to retwist your locks according to your hair type and density. So I know a lot of people out there are obsessed with this notion of not retwist too often, and there are people out there that are spacing out their retwist for like 3-4 months and then they're experiencing breakage with their locks. So what I realized, and I actually had to experience this myself, was that depending on your hair type, the density of it, it really dictates how often you should be retwisting your hair. I remember when I hit my 1-year lock anniversary in January, I was like, you know what? I'm going to start spacing out my retwist. So prior to that, I was getting my hair retwisted like every 4 to 5 weeks. And then I decided like, hey, when my 1-year anniversary comes, I'm going to start spacing out my retwist, and I'm going to retwist them every 8 weeks. So I spaced out my retwist for 8 weeks, and lo and behold, I experienced a bit of breakage in the back area in my nape area. I've actually never talked about this on my channel because it was a bit of breakage. It wasn't anything too crazy, but I definitely noticed it. And I did some research and I discovered that there are factors that really determine how often you should be retwisting your hair. And like I said, one of them is your hair type and like the density of it. So if you're someone that has a bit of a finer hair, as for me, for example, the back of my hair, the hair texture is a lot softer and finer than the rest of my hair. Like my hair type in the back of my head is like, it's like 3C4A. It's very, very, very soft. It's very, very fine, and it is prone to breakage because of that. So I was like, okay, that could be the reason why I experienced the breakage, is because I spaced out this retwist for so long. That finer hair did not receive any sort of maintenance for all those weeks, and it led to a bit of breakage. Then I went on social media and I saw there were a few other people who have finer textured hair, and they disclosed like, yeah, they retwist their hair like every 4 weeks. It actually started to make a little bit more sense. Depending on your hair type and your texture, you may need a little bit of maintenance more frequently than other people who may have more denser or maybe thicker, tightly coiled hair. And like I said, for myself, my hair texture in the back is a lot looser than the rest of my hair. The rest of my hair is like 4B, 4C, and they were fine. Like they could stand the 8 weeks without being retwisted. But my nape area, it was like, no, girl, you gotta do a little something. Oddly enough, when I was actually going to a loctician to get my hair done, they were telling me to come in every 4 to 5 weeks to get my hair retwisted. So I guess they were actually right about that. But yeah, find out what works best for you. Unfortunately, it's kind of like you won't really find out what is a good time frame for you until you unfortunately experience maybe some breakage, which sucks. You would figure out nevertheless what is a good time frame for you and go from there. You know, one thing that I always encourage people is to try different things out for yourself, but I also encourage people to pay attention to their hair and pay attention to how your hair responds to certain things. The second tip that I want to offer you guys is to consider palm rolling your locks over interlocking them. I actually have a video on my channel. It's like the 3rd video that I posted. I will link it, where I explain the difference between interlocking and retwisting and why I chose to stop interlocking my locks and decided to retwist them instead. But as I explained in that video, interlocking creates a more compact lock just because of the nature of it. You're taking the lock and you're looping it through your new growth. So it creates a more compact lock because it's almost like a knot that's being created. Whereas when you retwist or palm roll your locks, it has the space and it has the ability to expand over time. Things will vary depending on your hair type. There are some people out there who have very, very thick hair and denser hair than I do, and they choose to interlock and they don't experience that. But again, not everybody's hair is the same. What works for one person may not work for the other. So if you are somebody that is interlocking your locks and you're noticing that your locks are a little bit on the skinnier side than you would like, then try switching over to retwisting your locks. Do it for a couple of months and see how you like it. The good thing is that you can switch between both of these methods and it's not going to damage your locks as long as you know what you're doing, or you're going to a loctician that knows what they're doing and knows how to interlock properly. You can switch between the two and it'll be okay. I did it. I went from interlocking for several months and now I switched over to retwisting, and I've been doing it for the last couple of months and my hair is absolutely fine. So definitely try it out and see how you like it, and then from there you can determine which maintenance method works for you. So this third tip is for those who actually choose to retwist their locks. So I talk about this all the time. I talk about it whenever I show you guys when I retwist my locks, is that I only retwist the roots of my lock. And this is the reason why. The roots of my locks is where the new growth, or the part of my hair that is not locked yet, right? The rest of my lock, the shaft of my lock going down, is locked already. So I don't feel the need to retwist all the way down when this part is already locked. Me retwisting it every single time I retwist my hair is only gonna make this locked part more compact, and I don't want that. I like the size of my lock. I like the part of my hair that is locked. I like the size of it. I like the thickness of it. So I only focus on retwisting the roots of my locks. I also don't comb out that new growth or comb out that loose hair anymore. I used to do that, but I stopped doing that. The reason being is because locks are tangled hair. So if I'm taking a comb and I'm detangling something before I go in and retwist it, it feels a little bit counterproductive. So I don't comb out the roots and I only retwist my roots. And that is a great tip to ensure that your locks remain on the thicker side. Please make sure that you are not retwisting your locks too tight, meaning that your head should not be hurting you when you done retwisting it, okay? Don't get too excited and be like twisting and twisting and twisting till you can't twist no more. No, 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 no. That is way too tight. So the fourth tip that I'm gonna offer you guys is to also consider the fact that the size matters when it comes to the thickness of your locks. And this is kind of self-explanatory, but again, I still want to reiterate this to people. The size definitely matters. And the size of your lock, once again, it's also going to fall in line with like your hair density as well. So I have what you would consider mediums. I kind of feel like my locks are more like on the medium side. They're not small, but they're not like medium. They're a little bit in between, but they're closer to the medium range. But I knew that that was the size of how I wanted my locks to be. I knew I didn't want too many locks in my head. So, you know, I communicated that when I started my locks. I got my locks started with the loctician. Now, if you have finer hair, or if your hair is less dense, then depending on the size and how you part your hair, it's going to dictate and determine how your locks are going to be once they are mature. So your locks, wherever you start off at, whatever maintenance, whether you choose 2-strand twist or comb coils, whatever size you see when you start, just remember the fact that it is going to thicken up over time. I started my locks off with the 2-strand twist method, and my locks, you know, they were a pretty good size to me. I liked the size of how they looked, and I knew that they would thicken up over time, and they certainly have. But just remember that the size that you choose to start your locks with is also going to determine how thick your locks are going to be once they mature and lock in the future. The fifth tip that I want to offer you guys is to make sure that you avoid over manipulating and over styling your hair. In the first few months of me having locks, because I was still just trying to get used to it and my hair wasn't locked yet, it was in between looking like twists but also like very frizzy and trying to look like locks, and I was just also very excited about it. I definitely did a lot of lock styles and just, you know, was in my hair a lot and trying out different things. And even though I was in my hair a lot and doing a lot of different styles, I also wasn't doing anything too tight. I always made sure that everything was a very, very loose style. So styling your locks is not a bad thing, but remember, locks are something that is just you're leaving your hair alone to be. So do not feel like you have to manipulate and pull your hair back super tight. Locks are not meant to be that way. Locks are not meant to look perfect. It's very carefree. It's very just leave your hair alone and let it do what it wants to do. So even if you're gonna style them, don't do very tight styles. I'm not discouraging anyone from styling their locks. You know, have fun with your locks for sure, but also just be mindful. Do not do anything too tight. The last tip that I want to offer you guys is to try your hardest to prevent breakage. And listen, when it comes to our hair, breakage unfortunately is inevitable. Our hair will experience it for sure, but definitely finding out what is the cause of breakage, like what causes your hair to break off, and then doing whatever you can to avoid that is certainly key. So like I said, for me, I experienced a little bit of breakage in my nape area because I spaced out my retwist for way too long. One thing a lot of people don't realize is that if you have low vitamin D levels, that can cause hair breakage. And I have been somebody that before I even locked my hair, I experienced breakage in my loose natural hair, and I would always experience it during the winter time. Like it was like clockwork. Like every winter I would experience breakage in my hair, and I could not figure out what it was until I did some research and I found out that low vitamin D levels contributes to hair breakage. I realized that during the wintertime, my vitamin D levels, they definitely go below the norm. And I found this out because I actually went and got blood work done. So if you would like to figure out how or if your vitamin D levels are low, definitely make sure that you're going to your doctor's appointments and getting your annuals done and getting your blood work done, because they'll be able to tell you if they're low. Fortunately, you could take vitamin D supplements to help bring them back up. So that's something that I actually have been doing. I make sure that during the winter time I take vitamin D supplements because, like I said, I live in New York. It's cold as hell during the winter time. I don't go outside, so my vitamin D levels definitely take that hit. Now it's the summertime. I do go out a lot more, so I don't take them every day. I probably take them like every other day. But definitely check your vitamin D levels if you are experiencing breakage, because that might be the cause of it. Another thing too that can lead to breakage as well, of course, is if your hair is not properly moisturized. So like I said earlier, pay attention to your hair and how it is reacting to whatever products that you are using. If you're using something and it's supposed to be moisturizing your hair and you find that your hair is still dry like the Sahara Desert, then it ain't working for you, and that's okay. Go ahead and find another product that works for you. It has taken me years and years and years to find out what products that work best for me, and I've had natural hair my entire life. You also want to make sure that you're drinking a lot of water, and I know y'all tired of hearing everybody say this, but baby, if you want your locks to flourish and be moisturized, you got to consider that anything that is happening internally is going to reflect externally. So if you are not drinking enough water, your body is going to be dehydrated. It's going to be reflected in your hair and your skin. So definitely make sure you're drinking a lot of water, you guys, okay? Definitely make sure that you are keeping your hair moisturized, and that is a reflection of the products you use and also what you're feeding your body internally as well. And that in the long run will prevent breakage. So this is going to be the end of the video, you guys. This is just a few tips to share with you. Like I said, consider different factors when it comes to your hair and also your hair type. If you're somebody that already has finer hair, then you're not going to probably experience super thick locks, but you can make sure that you do certain things so that your locks do not thin out over time. And that's the main thing. Genetics play a very large role in our hair type, and the hair that we have is the hair that we have, but there are certain things that we can do to ensure that the hair that we have remains there and it remains on the healthier side. The tips that I share with you guys today are definitely things that you can implement to make sure that your hair, that your locks remain healthy and as is and does not thin out over time. So if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and turn your notifications on, and I will see you beautiful people in the next video. Bye bye.